Welcome to the Build Your Life Coaching Biz podcast, where you get to learn how to become a professional life coach and start an online coaching business from scratch. I'm your host, Krista Kathleen, a professional certified coach and spiritual business mentor. In 2016, I got divorced and left my full-time job as a registered nurse and decided to bravely answer my calling of becoming a life coach so I could help to change lives as I traveled around the world. And now I want to help you discover your purpose too. Having the freedom and flexibility to be your own boss and make as much money as you want right from your laptop will be one of the best gifts you ever give to yourself, your family, and the world. In these episodes, I'll give you real coaching combined with proven strategies and spiritual practices in order to help build your dream coaching business that feels perfect for you. Hi, everyone. I am all dressed up right now, and Kyle and I are going to be going out to eat tonight. We are going to a restaurant in downtown St. Louis called Vicia. It is the restaurant that we went to on our second date when we were dating, or when we started dating back in, what was it, like 2018 or 19? Yeah, the reason we're going out is we are celebrating tonight. And the reason we are celebrating is because it's official that my Born to Coach Training Academy got accredited through the ICF. So we're now a level 2 PCC coach training program. And this is a dream that I've been working on for the past 5 years. So the fact that it's finally here, it happened, I'm definitely taking the time to celebrate it. And one of my favorite ways to celebrate is dressing up and getting Lincoln a babysitter and going out to a fancy restaurant and just really enjoying fine dining. And I don't get to do that a whole lot now being a mom. So I'm really excited to, just really take this time to celebrate this huge accomplishment. And I did a whole Facebook Live of the behind the scenes to get to this place to become a level 2 PCC accredited coach training program. And my assistant is going to upload that onto the podcast here in the next couple of days. So I recommend that you listen to it and check it out if you're curious to know what that journey's been like. But that is not the point of tonight's episode. So while I'm waiting for us to leave, so we're going to leave in about 30 minutes for the restaurant, I just wanted to really quick talk about a situation that happened yesterday that deals with the inner child getting triggered, or more specifically, my inner child getting wounded and triggered. And this is inner child work is something that I've started doing the past couple of years, and I've really been focusing on it a lot with my therapist in the past year. And so I'm sure some of you have probably heard about inner child work, and maybe for some of you, this is a completely new concept. But you'll hear me talk a lot about it if you work with me or if you're inside the Born to Coach Training Academy. And I wanted to read this article to you I guess maybe before I read so my therapist sent me this really great article that I think you all will like. It's really short. But before I do that, I need to talk about the situation that happened. So I had a woman that booked a coach training consult with me yesterday, and she didn't show up to her consult. And, sometimes that happens and it's not the end of the world. And I texted her and said, hey, now's your coach training consult. Is now still a good time? And she responded back in a way that I wasn't mentally prepared for. And she basically said, I read your book and you're not the coach for me. Peace and blessings. It was very short and to the point, but when I read that, it felt like a bee had stung my heart. And so I self-published a book called Beyond the White Picket Fence, Breaking Out of the Life Others Expect You to Live. If you haven't read it yet, you should go check it out on Amazon. There's a naked picture of me on the cover holding pink roses in front of a white fence. And I self-published this a couple years ago, and it's basically like my life story and me shedding light on the most shameful parts of my life story. And I don't want to give anything away because I want you to read it, but it's a very raw and vulnerable book. And I knew that when I put my story out into the world that it could potentially lose me business. And I knew that there was a possibility that people might not want to work with me or might not want to join my programs due to reading my story and the more controversial parts of the story. But I felt the risk was worth it. And I felt that there are so many people out in the world that are suffering and are struggling alone in their journeys. And I don't want people to feel like that. And so I wanted to tell my story so that people feel less alone. And one of my most favorite parts of my story is me. Well, I don't know, this is like the favorite part, but like my favorite outcome of me writing the story is so many women have opened up to me and shared that they have also had an abortion as well. So in one of the chapters, I talk about my experience of getting an abortion at 22 years old. And it makes me feel good when people read my story and then they open up and they say, Krista, I've never shared this with anyone before, and you're the first person I'm going to tell this. And it's such an honor when people do that. And that my story was like the gateway to them feeling like they could open up and talk about a part of their life that they've hidden or tucked away because they were so embarrassed and ashamed about it. And the more that we bring love and light to our situations, then shame can't survive in those situations. And when we have shame, a lot of times that's what leads to addictions, right? Because we're trying to numb and cover up the parts of us that we're ashamed about or embarrassed about. So I'm trying to prevent that from happening for people. And I just want people to know that they're not alone, and that I've gone through some really tough things, and I talk about in the story how I've worked through and how I've overcome it. And so I'm really, really proud of my story now and my book. And I feel like it truly is a gift to the world that I'm giving to share my story in this way. But there's also still parts of me that is scared of people judging me. And it literally happened this week. And when I read that text, like I said, it just felt like someone was driving a knife into my heart. And there was a part of me that was like, well, it's okay. I was trying to bypass my feelings, which is what I've done my entire life. And I was trying to pump myself up and be like, well, it's okay. And she's not meant to work with me. And it's better that it happens sooner rather than later versus her joining, the academy and then us having to deal with this situation later. And I just was like, you know what, Krista, no, stop doing this to yourself. You need to be real with the fact that this is really hurtful for you right now. And so my inner child's name is Chrissy because that was my nickname growing up. And so I just had a little conversation with her, right? So when we get wounded and when we get hurt, that is the child part of our brain that is being triggered there. And so I just had a little conversation with Chrissy and I told her, I was like, yeah, this really sucks when things like this happen. And when people don't want to work with you because of your story and they don't see the beauty in what you shared. And, I just had a real and raw and honest conversation with her, and it felt really good to do that. And I know that I want to get to this place where people can tell me comments like, I read your book and you're not the coach for me. I don't want to work with you anymore. And I know I can get to this place where it doesn't hurt so bad. But to get to that place, I have to do the shadow work. I have to do the inner child work first and stop bypassing my feelings. And I want to really be able to do this for myself so that way I can keep doing this for my students and my clients moving forward as well, because I think this work is so important. So I am going to schedule a therapy appointment. I have a trigger journal now, and every time I get triggered or something makes me really emotional, I write the situation down and then I schedule a therapy appointment so that way I can unpack it with my therapist. And this has been going really well for me over the past year. And so like I said, my therapist sent me this article from healingheartsofindie.com that I wanted to read to all of you. That applies to this situation that we're talking about right now, because I know a lot of you have been through difficult life events, right? That is usually why people feel called to become a life coach, is because they've gone through really hard things, and then they want to turn their pain into purpose, and they want to help other people through hard things as well. And so I know a lot of you have also thought about being more public with your life stories and experiences. And maybe you might even write a book someday as well. But there's probably that part of you that's worried and scared that something is going to happen. That literally just happened to me this week, of where you're going to get judged or where people might not want to work with you because of what you share in the public. And so I don't ever want that to stop you from sharing your story and your truth with others, because your story will heal the world. But you also have to be ready to do the inner child work, right? So if you want to be more public with your story, you have to be ready and you have to be prepared that not everyone is going to receive it in the way that you want them to. And so you have to be okay with that. And it's really, really hard, but you also can't let the fear of people judging you, you can't let that fear take over the show and prevent you from, being a truth teller, from being a light worker, and from doing this work that you were put on this earth to do. So with that being said, let me read this article to you real fast, and then we can talk about it. So it says, it's called The 3 Parts of You. And I think this will also help to make sense too of why people respond in the way they do. And you can identify when people are responding from the child part of their brain or the teenager part of their brain or the adult part of their brain. And then you can identify for yourself too with what part of your brain you're reacting or responding from. So, do you know the different parts of yourself? Most of us are only vaguely aware of the 3 different parts that I like to talk about in counseling: the adult, the little boy and girl, and the angry teenager. If you want to have a healthy life, you'll want to become intimately aware of all 3 parts of yourself. The adult. This is the part of you that is reasonable, rational, knows the right thing to do, and makes pretty good decisions. This part of us can keep our word, see the bigger picture, and remain mature in tense situations. This is usually the only part of ourselves that we see well, and since we like that part of ourselves, we like to think that that is all of us. Picture the adult having a calm, rational discussion about a very intense topic. Okay, so that's one part of us, the adult. Next is the little girl or boy. This part of us is much more insecure, needy, sensitive, and easily wounded. They are impulsive, have immature reactions to things, and are not very in touch with their emotions. This part of us comes out big time in relationships, and we are often just as surprised as our partner when it does. Picture the little boy or girl as pouting under the coffee table, having been terribly wounded by a minor oversight by another person. So that was the part of my brain that I was in when I first read that text from that woman. And then the third part is the angry, immature teenager. This part of us is also impulsive and immature, but has the capability of doing much more damage than the little boy or girl. They might react by lashing out with harsh words or squealing their tires out of the parking lot. They have to have the last word. They might unfriend you or post details about the current drama on Facebook in an angry snit. If they can't get the other person to admit to their horribly offensive behavior, they might turn it on themselves and get suicidal in order to get the other person to heal their pain or hear their pain. Picture the angry, immature teen is keying your car in a fit of rage. If you only see the adult part of yourself and are disconnected from the other parts, then the little girl or boy and the angry teenager could be running behind the scenes, causing all kinds of damage. It's like having a virus that is running behind the seemingly normal functions of your computer, but wreaking all kinds of havoc without your knowledge. You will have little to no control over your actions and reactions. A healthy person is in touch with all three components of themselves and can speak to them. The little child can identify that he is hurt or disappointed and takes it to the adult to get relief, versus pouting under the coffee table. The angry teenager recognizes their anger as a signal that something is wrong and works with the adult to decide the best course of action. So nothing has to be done this second. When all three are working as a team, they can sit with something and let the best decision come to them. Recognizing these other parts of yourself may just be the very thing you need to take you to the next level of emotional health. So I will share that link to the article in the show notes so that if you want to go through and read that on your own time, you can. But I thought that was just such a powerful article. And I hope that you found it helpful to start to learn the different parts of yourself. And I'm hoping that when I bring this situation to my therapist, that I can to decide the best course of action to take from here. And do I want to just let this go? Do I want to speak up to the woman and tell her how I'm feeling? I don't really know yet, but I do think it'll be helpful, like I said, to unpack this with my therapist. And so, that's what happened to me this week. And I just wanted to be open and honest with where I'm at. And I know that I can, get to the adult part of my brain in this situation, but I have to address the child and the angry teenager parts that are wanting to come out right now. And just so you all know, like I said, if you ever work with me inside the academy or if you ever become a personal client of mine, I want to do this work with you as well, because I think this work is so, so important for us as life coaches and especially so we can get to the part where we can just confidently be visible and put ourselves out into the online world or the in-person world, and we can share our truth and our messages and our stories, and we don't have to let people's reactions hold us back in any way. So thanks so much for listening in and joining me in this evening before I get ready to go out and celebrate. And it's kind of funny because one of my good friends here that lives in St. Louis, I reached out to her last night after the woman stood me up and told me she didn't want to work with me because of my book. And my friend was like, wow, Krista, isn't this so interesting that you are celebrating such a huge success in your life right now with your coach training program getting accredited, and then here you're also having to deal with the darker side of success as well. And it just was like a little friendly reminder that if we want to get to the top and if we want to be successful, we also have to deal with kind of this bullshit that's going to come along with it as well. And you don't get to be free of it. So with the success, there is the darker sides of success as well that we're going to have to get really good at learning how to navigate and handle. And, when you have your life coach and your therapist to work with, it makes getting through these situations so much easier and less painful to deal with. So, all right, that's all I have for you this evening, my friends. Thanks again for tuning in. So grateful for you. And don't forget to check out the episode of the behind the scenes journey of us getting accredited through the ICF. It's a pretty cool story. So, all right, see you in the next episode. I'm so grateful that our paths have crossed at this time. And if you're ready to up-level your coaching skill set and learn how to confidently coach at the transformational PCC level in order to help your clients get bigger breakthroughs and better results, then join our Born to Coach Training Academy at buildyourlifecoachingbiz.com/certification.